Joining us now to discuss is Aidan Bazzetti, the president of the Bull Moose Project. Aidan, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So it's begrudging praise, but you have to hand it to the left. They can spin something as horrific as a mass shooting of Christians by a trans shooter to their benefit, and then the expelling of their lawmakers to their benefit. Should the right learn from this kind of politics?
I think there's a lesson to be learned from that kind of politics, especially when you take in the fact that they transform the narrative from the fact that a transgender individual shot up a school and had to be killed by police officers to be stopped into one that completely flips it on its head, saying that instead we were endangering transgender individuals and that the real problem was gun ownership. And, echoing rhetoric of Republicans are saying we need to genocide trans people. That is very extreme, and it catches the headlines, and everybody forgot the original catastrophe in the first place.
That they have, and really the message that has been amplified time and again is, well, you Christians, you deserve it. You're bigots in the first place. Stop backing our trans allies and brothers and sisters into a corner where they feel forced to have to, kind of bring out the claws or bring out the teeth, whatever have you. Very, very scary times indeed. And when you look at what's going on, as Peachy was pointing out, even in a state as red as Tennessee, unfortunately, you still can't even get the crowds out there to counter protest. And now, of course, I know the administration, the government, the feds in general have really put the boot down on any kind of conservative protest. So I completely understand that. That's what January 6th was all about, the shock and awe that no one under Biden now will be ever protesting, because you got the feds infiltrating and then agitating, and they're trying to scoop up every old grandma and every military vet, whoever goes anywhere near any right-wing protest. So I get it. The feds have really poisoned those waters for us on the right. But at the same time, just the demonstrations of having the picket signs and saying, hey, mutilating kids, no matter what kind of affectation that you use in your voice, it's not a good thing. It's not the next civil rights, movement on the horizon. And yet, do you think that kind of goes back, unfortunately, to the issue we have with the right is a lot of people on the right say, well, hey, live and let live. Whatever they want to do, let them do it. And they don't realize that the left is coming for you. Whether or not you want to fight them, they definitely want to fight you.
Yeah, the main takeaway from this is that conservatives, Republicans, need to focus as much energy on state legislatures as they do on school boards and in federal office. There are millions of parents across the country that have been mobilized over the last few years to focus on their school boards and really diving deep into budget oversight, library oversight, and issues like that. But when it comes to reliably conservative states, the legislators are not like that. They want a good working environment with their colleagues, even if they have a supermajority. And they're not really interested in duking it out on the issues that conservative voters care about. And so there are two things that are most important for this. One, we need reliable conservatives to start running for state legislatures and even other local offices. And those legislators need to have the support of actual conservative organizations, because the fact is a lot of state governments are part-time. The state representative that lives down the street from you is not making $170,000 a year like a member of Congress. They're probably getting paid $20,000 and only working a couple months, and they're not really interested in making all of their neighbors protest at their homes, which happens from the left all the time. And so we need people who are willing to put their stake in the game, really willing to fight it out for the solutions that the communities want.
We definitely need that, because as we're saying here, we're getting our butts handed to us in a red state like Tennessee. It is really just so remarkable to see this going on, that, like we were saying earlier, with the slaughter of, 6 people at a Christian school, including 3 9-year-old children. You see then the trans cause, that gets all the attention. Then the gun control issue gets all the attention. The Democrat state reps, the ones who, disrupt. Remember, I thought everything was supposed to be so sacred. You can't disrupt what's going on inside any capital. Well, Democrats do that. Nothing happens, except they become basically martyrs, and so now they're being reinstated. So you're exactly right. In these red states where we do have majorities, we need to start acting like it. We need to start governing like it. We need to start legislating like it. The Daily Wire is a new piece, as you were referring to, by I think Luke Rosiak, where he starts to discuss some of this. And I have some of the numbers here, if I can look. So Republicans, he says, hold governorships and legislative majorities in 22 states, compared to 17 for Democrats and 11 states in which the government is divided. Does it feel like we have the majority in this nation when you look around, as you were saying earlier, even in states like Wyoming, as red as Wyoming is, they can't even pass through legislation that would cut funding, state funding for genderqueer ideology and other stuff inside their own colleges? I mean, again, looking around, does it feel like we have almost half this nation being controlled by red states? Because right now it feels like the Democrats are in charge literally everywhere, even though technically that's not the case.
No, you're exactly right, and the problem is lack of accountability for these state office holders. There are really good state representatives all across the country that are really fighting for conservative solutions in these states that have Republican supermajorities. But the problem is that the people that have been there for 10, 15, 20 years don't really have an interest in that. In fact, they probably look down on a lot of the people that vote for them in the first place. And so we need people who are willing to push the line, because when you get Republican elected officials to go on the record on certain issues, it's going to be a really good tool to make people pay attention. In Tennessee, if these Republican state legislators don't really crack down on the kind of ideology that's making children mentally ill and act out in extreme violent ways, then why would the community want to keep them? Especially the community that has been so devastated by this. And I know people who have been personally affected, and it's horrible. And the fact that the media allowed the coverage of this issue to get so out of control and benefit what are they calling them, the Tennessee Three, who are rabble rousers, and probably accomplish nothing in the state legislature in the first place. It's disgusting, honestly.
It is, and it also goes back to another issue that I have with Republicans kind of digging ourselves a little hole here, perhaps, as the joke goes, one foot in the grave, the other on a banana peel, in many ways where the right tries to do the outreach to the left, either by, as we're talking about in some of these state legislators, oh, let's go along to get along, let's compromise some of our core values here with Democrats, because surely they'll then compromise back with us. Never happens, of course, but you see the situation where a lot of Republicans, they also start to talk like Democrats. They start to talk like liberals. They start to use, for example, we see with Nikki Haley's presidential campaign, using a lot of feminist language to own those libs, but then also using a lot of the talking points on race. You hear a lot from Senator Tim Scott and some other high-profile Republicans saying slavery is America's original sin, or this nation has a horrible track record on race relations, and on they go. But all they're doing is strengthening this idea that the left has created, and that only empowers the left. That's why you can have the two Justins out there, especially Pearson, former Rep Pearson, now probably going to be Rep Pearson once again, going out there and, used to talk normal back in the day. Now he's pretending he's Malcolm X or something, and really kind of drawing on that, because even the right, when we speak about these issues, we only solidify the foundation from which the Democrats can use as a springboard for more votes, more sympathy, and we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot there. So Aidan, before I let you go tonight, any last thoughts here before we wrap up?
Yeah, to the viewers watching this, your vote and your voice makes a difference. It makes a huge difference, especially when you're constantly reaching out to your local elected officials. And if you're not satisfied with your representation, there's nothing stopping you from running for office and from trying to accomplish real conservative change. And so I encourage everyone to go to our website, BoldNewsProject.org, learn a little bit about what we do, and hopefully take the steps to become a candidate yourself.
Sounds good to me. Aidan, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.